I would like to start off by reflecting on the famous sociologist C. Wright Mills. And don't worry, I'm not going to go into a theory course this early on a Monday morning. But C. Wright Mills reminds us that it is important to integrate your social reality with your own life choices. So in a nutshell, what he was saying is that individuals should construct their own realities in reference to the wider society. Now, what C. Wright Mills was speaking about was a particular time in history. He was writing in the late 1950s, and he was reflecting on a society that was in transition, a society that was very uncertain. Why? Because the war had ended in 1945, which means it had serious implications on society. And this included, for instance, the job market. So in a sense, he was saying that individuals need to adapt to what is happening in society. And in many ways, we are experiencing a different type of war at the moment. We are looking at a pandemic that will have long-lasting effects on many societies, and these effects will be seen socially, economically, medically. So what we are envisioning as social scientists is that societies and people need to be restored. So in many ways, I actually envision a rise of the humanities. For many years, social science students have been criticized for doing soft science, so to speak. But what can the skills that students learn, especially on a social science level, how can these skills be learned or used in practice in order to make society different, especially in these very trying times? So one of the lessons I always tell my students is that you need to know your value. You need to be aware of your own skills and what you can bring to the plate. And in many ways, then you need to be an active participant in your own lives, an active participant in making career choices. It very rarely happens that a career just falls on your lap. And that is why things like career counseling and career guidance are so important. So a couple of years ago, in 2010 to be exact, I conducted a case study in my own department looking at graduate students, so my post students who had left, and I wanted to find out what is their employability. What are employers looking for? How are they applying the skills that they were taught in sociology in practice? And one of the important things that came out was that employers are looking for experience in the field. And I know this is very frustrating to students, because how can you both study, and most of us have had part-time jobs as students as well, how can you balance that while still getting some form of experience? And unfortunately, this is just the reality we are faced with. Employers are very keen to see internships or work readiness programs or job shadowing even. And this is very important. Any little thing you can put on your CV is very important. And in our honors classes, for our degree, we require that our honors students complete 120 hours of internship. And one of my students turned around to me and said, "Ma'am, just give me any type of position." And I said, "No, you need to think strategic about it. What is your passion? Where do you see yourself? What field do you see yourself in?" And I told her to go home and come back to me the next day. And she said, "Actually, Ma'am, I'm interested in social change." And I eventually got her into an internship program at the UJ Center for Social Change. And that is how she got more practical experience in it. And it opened up so many doors for her. In fact, they are offering her a MA scholarship for next year. So it was also a networking opportunity. But even if she did not get that scholarship, the practical experience is so, so valuable. So let's speak a little bit about the idea of value. In this study I conducted, unfortunately, I found that students only realized their value and the skills that they can bring to a job as they were working, as they were starting to work. Now, this is a discourse we need to change. Students need to know what their value is beforehand so that you can market yourself. You need to break away from thinking about finding a job, for instance, in the traditional way, and see how you can adapt, how you can bring more to the plate. As we know, we are living in a country with high unemployment rates, and it's a very competitive field. So it means that you need to come up with strategies. For instance, find a niche area. A niche area is where you become an expert in the field. So you need to analyze where you are coming from, the subjects that you currently have, and also what you want to do in future. For instance, if you are making choices about postgraduate studies, you need to think about where this can take you, what this expert field can bring in terms of your career choices. And another important thing is you need to do a bit of research and see what employers are actually looking for in order for you to make informed decisions about your future careers. And in many ways, even though COVID-19 has closed some doors, it is opening others. For instance, what are the opportunities out there? I know of a student who recently got a job working for a company in Canada, and he's living in South Africa, so he's working remotely. So what are these opportunities that are out there? In this study, I found that a lot of employers are looking for problem solvers, people who can think out of the box. And Dr. Chinwe, I think, mentioned once that, in fact, humanities students shouldn't even have a box. And these are the type of skills. Also, humanities students have analytical minds. This is what they are trying to do. How can you use it in terms of really promoting yourself, in terms of finding a job one day? And also, you need to be aware of what the current trends are. So, for instance, quantitative research is in demand at the moment, and a lot of employers often phone me and say, do you have any good students who can do proper quantitative research? And that should also inform your future study decisions. So this study was in 2010, and last year, one of my master's students decided to kind of replicate this study to see what the current situation looks like. And she didn't look at students in particularly, she looked at recruitment agents, because these people work with employers on a daily basis, and employees or possible employees. So what can we learn from recruitment agents? And from these perspectives, these are some of the lessons that came out of it, and this should shape your ideas around your career choices. For one, the recruitment agent said your CVs needs to clearly identify your strengths. Just to quote one of the recruitment agents, we don't have the time to think on their behalf, they being students, of where we can place them. They must define a focus for themselves. So can you see how you need to be more active in actually paving the way for your own careers to unfold? And you know, another thing that the recruitment agent said is that graduates need to make themselves more visible. And this can happen by using, for instance, LinkedIn. A lot of employers are actually looking for candidates through LinkedIn. So it means that you need to use all these resources available to you to not just promote yourself, but really just put yourself out there and make yourself more visible. Another sad reality, I guess, is that the recruitment agent said that you need to be realistic. A lot of graduates need to start at the bottom. Just because you have a degree does not automatically mean that you will walk into a high-paying job. And I mean, I still stay in contact with a lot of my postgraduate students, and it's fascinating to see that they walk in as juniors, junior program directors, junior researchers, etc., and how they have developed and are now becoming senior or taking more senior positions. So it is a reality that everybody needs to face. Recruitment agents say that they want candidates, or employers want candidates who can do evaluations, or what we call quality management. So that is a bit of forward thinking. This includes risk assessment, for instance. They need to be able to work in teams. So as I'm speaking about this, I'm identifying certain skills that employers are looking for. And that's what you need to start thinking about, how the skills that you have learned and the skills that you want to acquire could actually contribute to your career one day. Another important point is that the job market is constantly changing. So you need to identify, one, you need to identify where you will fit in this changing market. And secondly, know how you will put theory into practice. One of the pitfalls or the downfalls of a university degree is that a lot of times it's all about theory, but it's very important to be able to apply it. So you need to start thinking or changing your mindset and how you can actually go about doing that. So I'm coming to an end here, my little introduction, and I want to end with another quote from the recruitment agent. Now, this quote might seem a bit grim, but unfortunately, this is the reality. She says, "It does not matter how far you studied. If you do not have a sense of what you want in life and what you can offer an employer, I do not want to touch you. Your degree will not automatically open doors. You must be realistic." So how can you begin or start to be more realistic? One, you need to assess yourself in relation to the current job market and what is out there. You need to identify a list of possible occupations. And again, here you need to think outside of the box and think outside of that safe space of what you think traditional careers are. I know of a design student, an arts design student, who are working with natural and social scientists today, working on how they can solve toilet situations in rural areas. So he's designing with these other scientists ways in which portable toilets can be employed in these very marginalized areas. You have to actually see it to believe it. So in a sense, he said to me, he thought he will go into a traditional design job, but ended up in something so much far more enriching and also interdisciplinary. So think a little bit outside of the box. And thirdly, you need to explore and research all these occupations and see then, consider your own values and skills and how you can apply it within these occupations. And once you've made a career choice, you then need to identify your goals. What are the strategies you are going to proactively employ in order to make this happen in your own lives? That, in a nutshell, is just a broad overview of some of the things you need to be aware of. So I think, once again, going back to being active participants in your own career choices. I will leave it at that. Thank you so much, Dr. Chinwe.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smuts. Wow, that was a lot to really reflect on. It's a lot to really think about, to guide us towards our path to career, to choosing the right career. And I think I particularly like the fact that you emphasize the skills that most of them would require, and how the workplace is constantly changing. All right, I'll take the conversation a step further by sharing some current examples from the job market before we delve into some exercises and some things that would enable people who are currently confused and are trying to make a decision on what kind of skills to build on, or what career choice, or how to really go about being an expert in one thing. Because Dr. Smuts did say that that employers are looking for people who are able to do evaluations, people who are able to do research. Basically, employers are looking for problem solvers. Employers are looking for people who are adaptable, right? And they are looking for people who are willing to think like there is no box, because now with the outbreak of COVID-19, a lot of employers are no longer looking to hire more people again. They are looking for how they can optimize what they already have, which means that they are less likely to hire more people. I think last week it was Pinterest paid 89.5 million dollars to cancel their lease in San Francisco. Why? Because with the outbreak of COVID-19, they realized that they didn't really need more people, and that most of their employees were actually going to be able to work remotely. So what did they do? They canceled their lease. The lease was, I think it cost them over 400 and something million dollars, thousand of dollars. And then the only, a lot of people, a lot of analysts are saying that they sort of managed, to be able to get off with with paying $89 million just to cancel the lease. So which means that right now you don't need to move. You can actually stay where you are and work, and employers are looking for the best deal. Employers are looking for people who would give them the best value for their money. So, and as the years go by, we have a lot of areas of expertise and a lot of opportunities that are coming up, and these opportunities are opportunities that are going to be taken by the best of the best, because now, I mean, it's for every 2,000 graduates from South Africa, we have about 1 million from Harvard and from Oxford and from Cambridge. So what does that mean? That means that nobody's going to rescue you. You have to be competitive. You have to be adaptable. You have to be able to push yourself. So let me quickly share a few examples that I saw of people who are discontent where they are right now. And it's not so much about credentialism. It's not so much about getting a BA degree, because your BA degree doesn't really mean so much these days. So let me just look at that presentation now. Let me see. Okay. No. Oh dear, what have I done? It's Chrome tab. Let me see. It's all right. I'm not sure why my presentation is not showing. It wants to show on a tab, but this is embarrassing. All right. I think I could just look at the presentation from where I am right now. Okay, the first question that the person asked, I became a career counselor for Indeed at the start of May this year, and throughout my career counseling role with Indeed, I have noticed that most of their clients, or most of the people I have come across, seem to be asking the same questions that most of you are asking. So I just wanted, I don't know why let me see if I can. It's really important that you see this, because I took a screenshot. All right, let me see if I'm able to just get the presentation right. It would make a lot of sense if we could just get the presentation done, so that you see it from where from their own perspective. All right, let me see if this is working. Okay, I got it. Okay, coming up right now. Cool. Cool. Yeah, we're there. So let me share it. Let me just share it because I want you to see it. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it.
All right, thank you. So the first one is a guy who asked whether college is still recommended. So he said to us, I have been without a job for 2 months. Is attending college still a good option? Now, this is where most of my students, or most of my ex-students, I have a couple of them who emailed me to ask me whether that they thought, most of them said to me that they thought that getting a degree was the ultimate, but now they have this degree and they're unable to get jobs. Now, another person here said to me, is using a recruiter actually worth it? Now, remember that most of these people are coming from all over the world. So they are not just, they are not South Africans. They are coming from the US, they're coming from Europe. These are people who are actually seeking out career counselors on Indeed.com. So these are people, most of them are quite experienced. Most of them are not, most of them are actually from first world countries or from high income countries, because oftentimes we tend to assume that that these problems are peculiar to individuals from low income settings. But you can see that most of these people are not just people who are located or embedded in our own context. Now, the second person says here, is the question, the theme was, is using a recruiter actually worth it? The person said, I am a seasoned business developer and marketer with the ability to write in over 20 languages. When I contact recruiters to help me find a remote position, they either ignore me or give me the runaround. Am I wasting my time? Now we move on to the next slide. This person says, I have been recently looking for my first part-time job since my parents lost theirs due to the pandemic. However, I do not have any relevant experience. Does anyone have tips to make yourself look more appealing to employers on your resume? The other person asked, currently not satisfied where I work, open to take any job, and that's in somewhere in the United States. So this person already has a job, but they are not satisfied. Now the next slide says, looking for part-time at homework. He says, I am a retired senior looking for part-time work from home or part-time close to home position to help supplement Social Security. This person is on a grant. So he's looking for something that would just help him. So he says, well, he or she says, I would prefer to work from home as I may not have a vehicle in the future, and travel, especially in winter, would be an issue. I have secretarial, bookkeeping, data entry, and other skills. I am proficient with QuickBooks Pro. 2016 was last edition I worked with, but most would have no problems with newer. Now, if you look at a common theme here, most of these people are discontent. Some of them already have jobs, some do not, but the bulk of the central theme here is that they want to move on to the next job. They want to look for something more satisfying. Then another person here is saying, oh, sorry about that. He's saying, at the moment I am working part-time at Walmart. Walmart is almost like a Mr. B, what do you call them now? At like Game or any of this other shops. What's their name? What's the name again? It's not a Game. Yeah. So exactly, yeah. At the moment, working part-time at Walmart, I have 4 degrees in things, including journalism. Now it gets interesting because this person has 4 degrees already, and most of you haven't even started yet. So I have 4 degrees in things, including journalism, graphic communications, multimedia, design, and creative writing. But most of my jobs have been poultry plants, restaurants, and now Walmart. With surgery on my lower back, I feel as if I'm running low on time for physical labor and need to find something else. Just not what would be a good thing in the COVID era. Thought of freelance writing or real estate, neither of which seems to be doing well. Now we move on to the next person. Now that person has 4 degrees, and some of you haven't even completed your first degree yet. So you see, now the next slide says, I am 15, that is looking for a job urgently. I am a hard worker at best and get the job done. My options are fast food worker, landscaping, etc. Now, the good thing about this thing on Indeed is that we cancel those people who are registered anonymously. So these are not their real names, right? And the other person says, I am currently working at a vice president level position and find myself with very restricted authority to make the need against the much needed changes to make the department successful, to the extent that long-term non-performing employees that report to me are protected regardless of the lack of performance. What advice would you give someone like myself that's in this situation? This person wants more authority and more status. Now, the next one says, I have been in California for about 2.5 years and have yet to find a first-time permanent position. I am having the hardest time with degrees and all. From what I see, California is not really diverse with hiring. I typically see 1 or 2 races of people that dominate the job market. Any suggestions? Now, the next one says, so I worked for Walmart for 7 years, holding 3 different positions. However, when filling out a resume, you're only given 1 position held slot. So I filled mine out like every new position I started, a new job experience position. Was that a correct way of doing it? The next person says, I really don't know what to do in life. I just graduated and I didn't go to college and I have no job. I'm stuck on what to do. I have little support from family. I need help or advice, anything, please. The next person says, hello, I am looking for my first job. I am in 11th grade. I need advice on how to make good first impression. Any advice is helpful. Now, the last but not the least is saying, I'm asking those questions because I want to know more about what careers are available for those with just a bachelor degree in psychology. What is or was the title of your job? What are the most satisfying parts of your job? What are the negative aspects of your job? What is the approximate salary in this career for someone just beginning? What skills or abilities do you think are most important for this job? All right, so this is where I stop my presentation and we go back to basics. Now, this brings us to the biggest question. What should I do with my life? Do I pursue a career or do I pursue a calling? Some people call it career, some people call it calling. But why we're having this career counseling today is because with the outbreak of COVID-19, a lot of people found themselves in spaces where they had to sit with their thoughts, where they had to sit down and do that reflection. They had to sit down with thoughts and things that they had run away from all their lives, only to realize that with this pandemic, they have had to, they will now have to focus to sit with themselves, and maybe they'll go a bit into solitude to deal with some of the unfinished businesses that they had with childhood. So this takes me to the first task that I would like for us to do today. Now, I could have chosen, as I was chatting to Dr. Smuts last night, I said to her that I was working on my slide, but it occurred to me that some of the things I wanted to say to you guys are actually meant for people who already know what they want to do with their lives. And judging by the kind of emails and messages I was receiving from most of you, I figured that most people don't even know where to start from. Most people are actually confused. And I had that sense of discontent when I finished my PhD. I felt, so most times we tend to listen a lot or derive our value and meaning from what other people say to us or from social conditioning. Everybody tells you, everybody hypes a certain thing or a certain vocation. They tell us, yeah, this is where to go. Yeah, this is what you pursue. But deep within you're yearning for more. You want more. Your authentic self is asking for more. So even when you achieve those things, there is still that emptiness within you. And that's why most of you are here today. Most of you are not here because you don't want to join the rat race. You're here because you want more than the rat race. You want to do something that will satisfy you. You want to go to bed at night and not just feel like you just have to suck up to that colleague. You just have to kiss someone's ass. You just have to just tolerate someone. No, you don't want to go through life doing that. You are here today because you want to know at your core what your calling is, what your purpose is, what it is that would give you value, that one thing that would give you money, that one thing that will satisfy your needs, and at the same time make you feel fulfilled. Now, the first step to that would be to go back to your childhood. Now, this is the part where I said that you'll need a piece of paper and a pen. Now, remember, when you were a kid, someone probably asked you, what would you like to be when you grow up? A lot of us have had those moments. Now, what happened was that some of us never really had the opportunity to develop what we really wanted to be or to build on it. Why? Because life happened, because our parents happened, because society happened and snatched our authentic self away from us, to the extent that what is now left is that the carcass of those childhood dreams and what we are right now versus what we could be or where we want to be. So now, right now, as I'm talking to you now, there are three people fighting within you. The first is your childhood, that your childhood dreams and visions and everything you wanted to be when you were like 7, 12, 10, 13 years. Who you are right now with all the black tax and all the reality of adulting. And it's almost as if you just woke up one morning and realized that, oh shit, this is where I am right now. This is who I am right now. This is what's going on right now. I've got bills to pay. My parents have lost their jobs. COVID is happening. The whole world is going crazy. And so you have the second person now, which is your current status quo. And then you have the third person now, which is the future you, the you that you would ideally want to be. So the first task right now would be for us to recreate our dreams, for you to just recreate your dream. Think back for a moment. Pick your pen and your paper right now and write down this. Who did I want to be when I was growing up? What was that dream? What was that person I wanted to be? What did I envisage myself? Where did I think I would be at this time? Now, this has nothing to do with what the dreams or the goals and the visions that your parents planted in you. You have to do this. You have to really be honest with yourself if you have to do this exercise right now. That's why I said that I had to ditch my presentation, just so that we can get down to the basics, because most of you are asking, should I do postgraduate studies? But the answers would have found in these questions, these tasks that we're going to do today, that we're currently doing right now. You cannot find out where you're going to, or what you or whether you need to do a postgraduate studies when you do not actually, when you fail to reconnect with what it is you wanted to do. Now, when we were children, we used to daydream a lot. We used to really access the source of our being without any hindrance, without anyone necessarily telling us that this is who you should be or this is what you want to be. Parents reprogram us. When we were growing up, you could tell. I remember yesterday I was talking to my daughter and I asked her, what do you want to be? She said, I want to be an artist. And I was like, what? You think I'm going to be paying? In my mind, I was saying, oh my God, you think I'm going to be paying all that school fees for you to be an artist? And then I caught myself. I'm like, no. I said to her, and that is the process of reprogramming. I said to her, you can actually be an artist and a scientist. So I figured that most of us had those moments too when we were growing up, where you said to your parents, I think I want to be an actress. I think I want to be this. And your parents shut you up right there. I'm like, hell no, I'm not paying for you to go to become an actress. What is that? What? And remember, that when you were like 7 years, maybe it wasn't even fashionable to be an influencer. Maybe you wanted to be an influencer, but I'm not saying that that's where exactly you're going to be. I'm not saying that that's going to be the timing where you're going to be, but it is closely linked with, it's going to be closely linked with your life trajectories. And it makes you aware. It makes you stay in the moment. And then as you go through the patterns, you reconnect and you sort of link all the patterns together, right, to ensure that you stay in that particular daydream status without necessarily coming back or bringing yourself forward to what your parents imposed on you. Because now, most of the things most of us end up having, most of the things, okay, let me rephrase that. Most of your capabilities at the time you were a kid, or most of your dreams as a kid, sometimes tend to translate into the careers that you have in future or in your later years. Now let me break down this point. When we were growing up, my immediate older sister was very handy. She was somebody who really liked to draw things and cut things. She would cut things, and then she used me as her human mannequin. So she would take my mom's clothes and cut them up. She would do a lot of stuff. But as we were growing up, my father started reprogramming her to be a lawyer. So growing up, they don't tell you either have to be a lawyer or a doctor. I mean, I understand most of you are doing sociology, but I don't think any one of you wanted to end up as a sociologist, because a lot of parents don't even, but you mentioned sociology to them, they're like, what is that? So as we were growing up, my sister was programmed to be a lawyer. So my sister, but she was very good with her hands. She was always that one person that things would go bad and then she would fix them. And I remember each time my mom would ask her, what do you want to be? She would tell my mom, I want to be an artist. But I noticed that she liked to create things. Now, fast forward later, my sister has graduated from one of the best law schools in the country, but she wasn't happy. She just didn't want to set up a practice. She would work somewhere and then she would quit, and then she was just all over the place until she was forced to gradually she started experimenting with skincare products, because she was very good with her hands. She would create things. She was that one person who would find me going out and she would tell me, you need to touch up your face. Then she would, put makeup, and I would quickly wipe them off because I would tell her it wasn't me. She was that one person who would make me wear ridiculous shoes. She was that one person who would make me wear ridiculous stuff and model for her. But we couldn't draw the connection then. Then over time, she enrolled for a master's degree and dropped out and said to me, you know what, I keep having this thing that I feel drawn to this thing about, creating a skincare product and all of that. And today she's doing very well in New York, and she's, she's built something for herself. So eventually, and she still has her law degree, but she's doing something very well with her life. So the first step to what I'm saying here would be to reconnect with your childhood dream. What was it you wanted to be when you were a child? Write it down, and maybe you take 5 minutes after this presentation to reconnect with that 7-year-old, that 13-year-old, and find out again who that person wanted to be. And as you do that, you try to connect it to your life trajectories. Has there been a sequence? Has there been a pattern? Has there been a current theme in your life that sort of connects to where you are right now? Put it down, because we will need it in our next session. Now, the next thing you want to do, the next step would be to find out who you are. Now, this is a very critical point. This is a very important step, because you want to find out who your authentic self is, because in finding out who you really are, you find out what is meaningful to you. You find out how you define success. How I define success is completely different from how my parents define success. Some people define success by the number of cars they are able to buy, but I define success by my ability to have an impact. So you see now, so first of all, you reconnect with your childhood dream. What was it you wanted to be? That is what you really want to be. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to come with the same, it has to be conceptualized the same way you conceptualized it as a child. But when you trace your life trajectories, you trace it backwards, you realize that some of the things you're doing now can actually be traced back to the dream you had when you were a child. And it will also enable you to, as you delve into who you really are, you can now begin to notice patterns. So in knowing who you are, you want to ask some questions like, what are you passionate about? Are you passionate about politics? Now, remember that you're trying to figure out whether you want to do postgraduate studies or what career to delve in. And part of the reason why I'm taking us back to the basics is that you don't want to end up tomorrow having an existential crisis because you're in the wrong job. You don't want to feel like you're working. You want to feel like you're just doing what you love doing for the rest of your life and that you're getting paid for it. And the only way you can feel that way or derive the satisfaction is by going back to the basics. Who am I? What is alien to me? What feels natural to me? You want to do that thing that feels very natural to you. You want to do that thing, and you want to make sure that you set your own standard and you are competing against yourself, not against other people. It's like playing a game that the terms or the rules of the game are dictated by others. You can't win. So you want to make sure that you ask yourself, what am I passionate about? Dr. Smuts mentioned about, being passionate about something and all of that. So this is part of the exercise that enables you to delve into your inner being, to ask yourself, what am I passionate about? Am I passionate about politics, about children, about international development, about music? What is it you care about? You might want to write this down. What do I care about? What issues matter most to me? Because this connects with some of the things that probably happened with you and some of the places where you would like to work, right? Now, what are you willing? So in asking these questions, you want to ask yourself, what am I willing to fight for? What am I willing to defend, right? What drives me? What are my deepest values? What are my highest dreams? Again, remember that you only ask these questions when you want more out of life. You don't want to be stuck in a place where you wake up at 40 or at 53 telling yourself, what have I done with my life? Why am I here? You don't want to spend the rest of your life driving an hour to work resentful. You don't want to end up, being in a place where you literally just gray and you're not having fun, right? So you want to be in a place where you create, where you feel like you're adding value, where you feel like you're not just self-actualizing, you're transcending, you're self-transcending, you understand? And then you're operating at a very high vibration, to the extent that it becomes, it draws other people in and attracts success and other things that you want that will actually help you to fulfill your purpose on earth. Because at the time we were born, all of us had a purpose on earth. So being able to find out who your authentic self is ties into that, right? So you want to ask, or also find in knowing yourself, you want to ask yourself, what conditions do I thrive most in? I bet most of you don't even know the kind of conditions you thrive most in. A lot of people are able to work under harsh conditions. Some people cannot. And there is no shame in knowing yourself and admitting it to yourself and knowing it at a very core level that I don't thrive under this condition. I don't like pressure. Now, when I was a student, I was that student that would hand in my assignments 2 weeks to the deadline, which is the reason why when I started teaching and I was introduced to online learning, I would open the portal for 4 weeks to the deadline, because I figured that I probably had students who were like me too then. I didn't like any form of pressure. Don't put pressure on me, I'll collapse. So I like to work, I like to be very proactive. Now, what that also meant was that I was very bad at dealing with change. I didn't like change. Now, it's good and bad, and by being self-aware, I was able to understand that no, change can happen upon us. Change can happen anytime. So what you have to do is to be adaptable. When that change happens, you process it. You don't run away from it. You don't collapse under it. You process it. But that only happened because I knew myself, right? So you want to know what kind of environment makes you thrive. Do you thrive under a very supportive environment? Do you thrive in a competitive environment, right? Now you want to know that, yeah? So do you like tough things? Some people don't like hard things. Some people don't like tough. They're like, no. I just want to do the barest minimum. Some people like tough things, but they like to hack it. Do you like to hack things, right? Now, it is important to know these things, because when you know these things, it becomes a map that guides your decisions and the turns and curves in your life. Now, and when something happens, or when you get an offer that is not in alignment with who you think you are, or with something that is meaningful to you, you can turn it down because you know yourself, and without feeling bad. I remember last year, so, 2 of my students got nominated for this award and all of that, and they came to me and said to me, "No, Dr. Igwe, I don't think I want to take up. I'm like, yeah, but it is prestigious. It is this, it is that. They said to me, one of them said to me, no, I don't think I want to go there. I don't think I want to go to the United States. I don't think I want to do this right now. I have XYZ. I'm doing XYZ. I was so impressed that I said, okay, wow, cool. You did that. Awesome. So it is important that you know that not every open door is your door. So when you know yourself and you know what it is you really want, and you know what really aligns with who you really are, with your authentic self, then you are able to now use that as a map in making your decisions, which takes us to the next one. Now, you need to, now another exercise I would suggest that you do is think of one person in your life that you like, or someone that you really envy, all right? I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but it's a very good litmus test that works for me, and I've used it over time. So identify one person you envy or one person that you admire, and write it down. What do you envy about them? What is it that you like about them? What do they have that you do not have? And then you can then connect this, and then you can connect it to the next step, which is, how do you define success? Now, most times I tell people that when you envy someone, a lot of us envy others, but we don't like to admit it. We don't like to admit that we envy that particular person, or that we don't dislike them and all of that. So the first thing is, ask yourself, what does this person, and I mean, you don't have to tell us, but you can be honest with yourself by admitting that, oh, I actually do envy Dr. Smuts, or I envy Alicia Peterson, or I envy this person. You know, they seem smarter than me. They talk the way I would like to, but maybe because I was socially conditioned to think differently. So when you identify those things, you can now begin to tell yourself, okay, actually, this, what I think was hatred, because most times we think we hate someone or we dislike someone. No, we actually envy them. Those people mirror something that's lacking in us, or something that we would like to have more of. So when you figure out what it is you like about that person, or what it is you dislike about that person, it leads you to the next step, which is, how do you define success? When we figure out how you define success, and what does success mean to you? Now, remember what I said earlier about knowing yourself. Now, when you know yourself, you know that this is me now. This is what is meaningful to me, and this, which means that throughout this journey, that I would have opportunities that other people would have too. And I don't necessarily have to take advantage of those opportunities, because those opportunities do not speak to me. They do not speak to my ideals. They do not speak to my dreams. They do not speak to my broader goals in life. And then I can walk past those opportunities knowing that, nah, that one is not for me, right? So, but when you in doing that, you also want to know, how do you define success? Now, I'm not talking about the way your parents define success. No. Our parents oftentimes define success in relation to how the Joneses define success. No, look at the son, but half of them. Oh, look at the son just built this huge mansion. Oh, look at the son is now married. No. In most cultures, you finish a BA degree, you hook a guy or you hook a girl. Okay, no, hang on. You finish your BA degree, you get a job first. You maybe move out of your parents' home, or then you get married. I hope I'm getting it right. Or maybe you get married before you move out. I don't know. So, but in this order, that's how some people define success. And then maybe you get this 9-to-5 job. Maybe you get this job that has security, and then you're apparently supposed to stay. And then you get a loan, a mortgage. Then you have 2 lovely kids. For most people, that could be a definition of success, but does that mean success to you? Is that what success means to you? So for you, success could be that, no, I just want to, by the time I'm age 35, or by the time I'm 30, I want to be the VP of a startup. Maybe I want to have 2 kids. By the time I'm 30, I want to have a husband. But again, it boils down to what is meaningful to you. Do you value children? Or I want to travel the world. I want to be the director of an NGO. I don't want to have kids yet. So when you, and the thing is, right, when you know what you want, now see the order, see the sequence. Now it enables you to define success, not based on other people's barometer or yardstick, based on yours. So because now you're able to tell yourself, this matters to me. What matters to me is prestige. What matters to me is impact. What matters to me is this or that. So now when you know that, you now begin to tell yourself that, you know what, I would not feel pressured based on what other people are saying of me, or based on how other people define success, because that is not it to me. Maybe you want to do a master's or do a PhD, and you studies or research has shown that married women, for instance, you're female, so you realize that married females tend to have more caregiving responsibilities, and then they tend to be less successful than their male counterparts and all of that. And then you tell yourself, oh, I want to get my PhD before I get married and all of that. And then you see your mates, you log into Facebook, and then you see your mates or your peers having baby shower, and they put a family photo and they have this caption, happy family or something. and then you go back home and wait your pillow. Hell no. You need to define success, because when you define success and what success means to you, you don't fall into pressure. You don't give into pressure. When you see them, you wish them well. You're happy for them, right? You're happy for them. Now, as a Nigerian, half Nigerian, I come from a culture where people value marriage. People think that you must, get married. And in fact, by age 26, if you're not married, something is wrong with you. So when I finished my studies and I was doing my master's, my younger sisters came to me and said, oh, I want to get married, sort of asking me for permission. I was like, no, go ahead. If you want to get married, get married. I want to do my PhD. I want to do other things with my life. I don't want to get married. I'm not ready to get married. And I remember being very happy at my sister's wedding, and somebody commented and said, "Oh, that's the bride's older sister," sort of making me look like a granny. And I retorted, "Hell yeah, I'm a big sister, and I don't want to get married, and I'm not going to be pressured into it." So and for me, I was genuinely happy. Now, when you know what you want, you know your authentic self, and then you define what success means to you. It means that nobody's going to pressure you. It means that even when people compare you or compare your success or your achievements to those of your peers, you don't give a damn. You don't want to know. You don't cave in. Why? Because you are on your own path, right? Now let's bring it down now to your career. Now, when you have been able to know this and to define what success means to you, it means that you now begin to set priorities. Now, because you've been able to figure out that one person you envy, and then you've been able to pinpoint what it is about them that you envy or that you do not like. You now write it down on a sheet of paper and ask yourself whether your daily actions actually mirror that person. Your tasks, will they get you there? Now, remember, you're already defining success. Now, what does success mean to you? What is it? Does it mean fulfillment, right? Does it mean making an impact? Does success mean buying a house? Does it mean lifting your family out of poverty? Does it mean becoming a president? What does it mean to you? Now, when you know that, you can now begin to divide what success means to you into two different categories, which are tasks. You have the first one as your needs, and then the second one would be your wants. You define it, you separate them into two, because it is not so much about what looks good on the outside or what looks very good on your CV. I mean, these things count, but it is about what is inside of you and what you can build upon. Sometimes what is alien, when we try to link or attach ourselves to something that is alien to our inner being, to our source, that is where we tend to struggle, right? Now, there are two different kinds of struggles that are closely linked to non-alignment, to things that are not aligned to our purpose, and struggle because you're trying to get out of your comfort zone. You're like a butterfly in a cocoon. You're trying to break out, right? So these are two different things. When you're trying to force yourself to be something you're not, or to be something that is not in alignment with your bigger purpose or your greater purpose, and when you're struggling to get out of social conditioning, even when you are on the right path. These are two different things. So when you've done this, the next thing you want to do, after you've defined success, the next thing you want to do is to ask yourself, do I want to focus on self-determination? Do I want to focus on self-actualization, or do I want to focus on self-transcendence? These things mean three different things. They mean different things. Do I want to focus on low priority areas? Do I want to focus on medium priority areas, or do I want to focus on high priority areas? What is it I want to do with my life? Now, in doing this, you want to find out what are my needs. Remember, you've defined success already. So, and you've identified that one person you do not like, or that one person you like, and you've identified things in their lives that you don't like, or the things you like. So you want to be able to write down those things. Okay, this person has a PhD. This person drives a nice car. This person does this. I mean, there are more serious things. This person stands up for what they believe in. This person is confident. This person speaks their truth. You put those things down, and already they are beginning to point to some of the things that you like, some of the things you would like to do, some of the things that feel authentic to your person. Now, and the next thing you want to do is, are these things crucial to where I really want to be, or to where I want to go in my life? Are they a part of what matters to me? And when you look at those things, you now begin to align your daily task, because now you've identified where it is you really want to go. You've identified what you really want to do. You know who you are right now. You know what you would like to focus on. You already know what it is what matters most to you right now. As I'm saying this now, I believe that most of you are already beginning to write those things down. And maybe in our next session, we can now explore how you can now ground yourself in those areas that will enable you to choose a good postgraduate degree that aligns with your authentic self. So when you have done that, you ask yourself, is this a need or a want? These things that I like in this person, are they part of what is going to make me the kind of a person I want to be? Now, when I started, I said that there are three different people in you. The person you were when you were growing up, the person you are right now, and the person you want to be. These are three different people. And every decision you make in your life has to be able to reconcile these three people. Otherwise, if you neglect the person you wanted to be when you were growing up, that is when you grow up and become an adult who needs to heal your inner child, right? And where you are right now has to be closely aligned to who you want to be. Otherwise, there's going to be a disconnect. You're going to live the rest of your life completely discontent with who you are and what you're doing. That's where you find people being fact there are people totally burn out and not being satisfied. That's where you have people, and it usually occurs at the age of between the age of 45 to maybe 56, where people are experiencing serious existential crisis. And some of these things could come up immediately after your BA. Now, most of you are advancing towards the end of your program, and you could start experiencing this existential angst, this dissatisfaction, this emptiness. Okay, so after this BA, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to be? The first question would be to ask yourself, who am I? What do I want? What matters most to me? What am I passionate about? What do I really want to do? What means most? What will I die defending? If money was not a problem, what is that one thing I would spend the rest of my life doing? Now you write it down. When you write it down, you find out that one person that you like or you don't like. And then you ask yourself, what is it I don't like about this person? Does it speak to something I want to be? Or what is it I envy about this person? You write it down too, because it's a pointer to where you want to be. When you write it down, now you define success. What does success mean to me? What is that? How do I define it? Is it the way society defines it? Does success mean being married? Because you could be married and not be happy. Does it mean having children? You could have children, children you didn't want to have, because society is telling you that you have to have children at a certain age. They could tell you that you should do postgraduate studies, but postgraduate studies is not for you. They could tell you that you should do postgraduate studies, maybe in development studies, but you're just not that person. It's not. You would rather just be sitting in an office coding. So when you realize, when you answer these questions at a very fundamental level, that is when you are actually able to get closer to what I would like to call being a T-shaped individual. Dr. Smuts mentioned how the workplaces changing and how we need to really adapt, how we need to be able to define what employers want. Now, employers are actually looking for problem solvers. Employers are looking for people who will enable them maximize whatever it is they have spent on you. Employers are not looking for just somebody who will come and sit down and keep telling them, oh, this is what I was asked to do. Employers are looking for people who are problem solvers. Now, very soon you realize that, in fact, with the outbreak of COVID, we realize that a lot of people could go to, people didn't have to physically go to the shops anymore. People could literally sit at home and order stuff. And it will be delivered to them. Now you ask yourself, this person that I am right now, does it fit into where the world is going? Because the world is changing. The person I want to be in future, does it tie into where the world is going? The person I wanted to be growing up, how do I refine that person to meet the changing needs of the growing demands of the changing needs of the workplace? That is where you have to do your homework. But it begins by knowing your authentic self. It begins by knowing what is really meaningful to you and what really matters to you. Now, the other thing would be to become a T-shaped person. Whether you're trying to make a decision about what areas to focus on for your PG studies, or you're trying to focus on how to be an expert in one thing, you don't want to be an I-shaped person. You don't want to be someone who has a BA degree and you are just tied to it, because the BA degree, we have a term known as credentialism, which means you get into a workplace that your credentials or your degree just gets you through the door. But what happens beyond that door has nothing to do with your degree. Most times you don't even do any job that's related to what you studied in school. So your degree gets you in. It tells you, okay, this is like a ticket. It gets you past the gates. Then what do you do after that? What now happens? What determines whether you thrive in the workplace is your ability to adapt, your ability to get out of your comfort zone, your ability to change, to reinvent yourself, to be innovative, your ability to become a T-shaped person, somebody who has a lot of capacities, but somebody who is an expert in at least one thing. You have to be an expert in one thing. Now, when you have a degree in sociology, a degree in sociology doesn't make you an expert in one thing. A degree in sociology only tells you that you have started this process. Which is why people go for master's degree. Right? That's when they become a master of that particular thing. So if you're currently asking yourself whether you should do postgraduate studies, the answer is yes, if you can. If you feel that it leads up to your definition of success, right? But alongside that, while you're doing that master's degree, or while you're still trying to figure out that particular career, you have to tell yourself, or you have to understand the fact that while you're doing that, you also have to develop your other capacities. Because just most times employers will tell you, we want somebody with a degree, a master's degree in development studies or sociology, but with somebody who is proficient in quantitative studies or qualitative, like Dr. Smuts said. We want somebody who is proficient in this, somebody who is a good team leader, team player, somebody who does these other things. And let me tell you something, a lot of organizations are downsizing right now. A lot of organizations are busy paying off people and giving severance package. You don't want to be that person that is laid off, somebody who is paid to leave. You want to be that person that they would fight to keep you, that even if there wasn't any position, they would say that having this person here in this organization is worth having 1 million people or 3 people who are going to do 3 different things. Why? Because you are T-shaped, because you are an expert in one thing, but you can do 3 other things, because you're adaptable, because you're not that person who sits and tells and claims this is what my job description is and I'm going to stick to it. You are that person who tells yourself, okay, this is where we are right now. So how do we move from where we are right now to where we want to be? And how I understand that it's going to be a bit uncomfortable, but I'm willing to do it. That is what employers are looking for. Employers are looking for people who have questions and willing to bring forth, to help in bringing forth the answers. Employers are looking for T-shaped people who are willing to be experts in one thing, but they are able to do a lot of other things. Employers are looking for people who are not going to say, just because I have this BA in sociology, I'm not going to try my hands on coding. Employers are looking for people who would say, when they tell you, oh, I want to, we no longer need people who teach, who teach Kosa. You tell them, okay, I understand a bit of Mandarin, or I understand a bit of French, and it's okay if you guys are willing to, just put a few dollars, a few cash on it. I could just brush up the skills. That's what employers are looking for. That way, you're saying, so all they need to do is increase your salary a bit and not hire another person. So what does this require? This means that nobody is coming to rescue you. This means that with the outbreak of COVID-19 calls for us to reinvent ourselves. It calls for us to step outside our comfort zone. It calls for us to reevaluate what matters to us and how we define success. It calls for us to reevaluate and reimagine what the world needs right now and where the world is going. Obviously, there are fields that are more lucrative, right? And in as much as it is good to chase the money, you really, at the end of the day, you get the money, and then what? You feel empty, you feel depleted, right? That's not what you want. So you want to be able to be an expert in that one thing. And being an expert in that one thing begins by evaluating who your authentic self, what matters to you, what is that one thing you're passionate about that you're willing to do for the rest of our lives, of your life. For instance, Dr. Smuts and I were during level 4 of the lockdown, but I realized that she paints. She does a lot of that, and she's probably I guess she probably makes more money from it than she makes from teaching, right? That's being T-shaped, right? And I know most of you know that I'm a life coach, and I have other capacities too. I used to be a child actor, and I bet I wouldn't make a bad actress either ways right now. So the thing is, for you to be able to find out what happens if your current job changes. Now, let me close with this. In the last 10 years, my husband forwarded a photo to me, and it was very interesting how in the last 10 years, they needed a helicopter and a cameraman to be able to take an aerial view, to take photos of an aerial view, right? But 10 years later, they no longer need a helicopter or a plane and the cameraman. Why? Because people have invented drones right now. So that means the cameraman lost his job and the pilot lost his job. So what does that tell you? It tells you that with the outbreak of COVID-19, we have to evaluate where we stand. We have to evaluate our skills. We have to understand that we need to be adaptable. We have to know that in as much as it is okay to be an expert in at least one thing, we have to develop and build up other capacities in other areas, which means that it is good and it is awesome to do a PhD studies in any field of your choice that you feel particularly drawn to, not because you're running away from other things. You could say, for instance, I want to go to population studies because the people in the sociologists tend to talk too much or they're too opinionated. But now you're not drawn to it. You're not attracted to it. You're just running away from something. So, but knowing yourself enables you to know what it is that you're drawn to or attracted to, or what resonates naturally from your authentic self or from your source. And then you can now begin to build that skill to become an expert in it. And then while at the same time honing other skills and stepping out of your comfort zone, so that so to the extent that you become so good that nobody can ignore you. And in the event that you're working somewhere, you're in a postgraduate program, and or in an organization and people are downsizing, they would tell them, no, if we keeping this person is almost like keeping 4 people. So with that, I close this session, and we would have another session in the month of October where I'll actually be delving into other things on how you can become a T-shaped person. I don't know if you guys have any questions or any remarks to make before we close. I believe that we can all undo our cameras now, switch on our cameras now. Hello, any questions, any remarks? Any remarks, guys? I'll send the videos, and if you're interested in the worksheets and the exercises that would enable you to recreate your dreams and find out who you are, define your success, define your priorities and your needs, and assign a status. I could send it out later. And if you would like to get a personalized career plan, I would do it happily. I'll be happy to help out. So if you would like the worksheet, let me know. If you would like a personalized career plan, it means you have to fill out a form for me so that I can fix that. Thank you. Okay. We would have our next session sometime. Okay. Yes. You'll need to email me for the worksheet and the personalized career plan. Otherwise, what I could do is to send it out. I have your email addresses. I could send it out so that anybody who wants it can fill out the forms. You will need to answer some questions first of all, so that I could use that to build one for you. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And do have a great day.